This is Betsy Jensen, and you are listening to Unstoppable Body and Mind, episode 109. What is somatic coaching?
In this podcast, we learn to upgrade our brain and understand the power of our thoughts, to heal and to create the results we want in our life. Become the person in control of your healing and make peace with your life. Become unstoppable, body and mind.
Hello, my loves. Today, we're going to talk about somatic coaching, which is how I would concisely describe what I do. Although it could mean different things to different people, I'm going to tell you about my version of somatic coaching and what somatic coaching even is. Basically, somatic means involving the body. So in somatic coaching, we're using some senses in the body, how it's feeling, as well as certain strategies, tools to use through the body to enhance the coaching experience. A lot of therapy or coaching tends to be talking. So two people getting together or virtually and talking about the problem, talking about what's going on, talking about solutions. But with somatic coaching, you actually also can go into the body. You can still talk about the things, but there are certain steps to be neutral and to look at what's going on. Instead of talking about the thing, you look at it, you allow it to have a voice, you allow any repressed emotions to be heard. When we talk about repressed emotions, one of the classic ones could be anger. So thinking about how many people, especially women, are trained to suppress their anger, that it's not appropriate to have anger. And so at a subconscious level, as children, after enough training, we learn to suppress our anger before it even comes out. And the survival response we may take instead of fight could be fawn, where we just say, oh, that's okay, it didn't bother me, and we people please, and we're nice in the hopes that people will be nice to us and it will be more safe if we people please. So we could turn to some survival state, which affects our body, when we start feeling anger come up and it gets suppressed at this subconscious level. So I know it sounds a little weird because we're used to talking about what we know in our conscious mind. But the thing is, our conscious mind only has about 5 to 10% of the information in it that we are aware of. So many things, like 95% of our thoughts, are going on at the subconscious level. And so we might start to get angry and automatically repress it and then have tension in our neck. But then we go and treat our neck and we have neck pain and, we don't know why our muscles keep getting tight in our neck. So that's one example of a repressed emotion. And through somatic coaching, if someone has chronic pain, or if they've had a lot of emotions that they don't feel like they have processed, we can use the body to unlock some of that information. How does that look? What does somatic coaching look like? It involves, if I was doing this with a client, they would just sit comfortably or lay down, close their eyes, and go into the body is what I call it. And so that means just become aware of the sensations that are already going on in your body. So you could focus on breathing, for example, and you could notice where you feel your breath the most, if it feels warm or cool, if it seems to have a color that you imagine or a shape as your breath is coming in or going out. So those are examples of going into the body and noticing things on purpose, describing them or feeling them on purpose, not resisting or having judgment for the sensations that are there, and opening this dialogue basically with the body to uncover what is going on. And often people may have some memory, like a childhood memory of being told by a teacher that they're not creative. something that has come up. And because of that event in time, the nervous system has developed this Pavlovian response, basically like a cause and effect response, that when any of those situations tend to come up, maybe having some opportunities for creativity, then the nervous system can, shut that down by putting you into some kind of overwhelm or fear state. And you could physically feel it in your body. So that's just an example that came to mind. But with somatic coaching, we can uncover some of the core root beliefs that affect our behavior and have affected our behavior since that moment, maybe for decades. So there are a lot of neural pathways that are very strong with that behavior, that it happens seemingly automatically. And so for people who've even done therapy or coaching where they've talked about a situation, it can be very frustrating. I used to say, my coach mind knows this, but it was like my cognitive brain, my coaching mind could see clearly what was going on in the situation. But then when I would get in the situation, my emotions, my body would take over. So with somatic coaching, what we can do is not only go into the body and figure out why this is happening, what's going on, but then we can also program a different response. So if the normal cause and effect is for this stimulus to happen and this effect, there are certain techniques that we can use to interrupt that, to create new neural pathways, and to actually change things from the bottom up. So when I say that, it means like the body up to the brain versus just staying in the brain and talking about it and being all logical about it, and then trying to change the body's responses from there, top down. So both techniques, top down and bottom up, they're both ways to address behavior change or to understand emotions or process them. But when you use both of them together, it can be so much more effective, because those problems that you can't seem to in the moment react differently to, you can actually practice through somatic coaching. And you can rehearse almost like the, Olympians that would rehearse their performance before they go do it. You can rehearse ways of reacting. And this can apply with pain reprocessing as well. So all of the coaching that I do now, helping people get out of pain, is through somatic coaching and educating them about the current neuroscience. So there are some top down and bottom up approaches, but for people with chronic pain, this method is so much more effective than what I was teaching people as a physical therapist. Although that had its place, it is not very effective for chronic pain, because that is amplified by fear. And that fear you can logically understand why you shouldn't have that fear. But again, the body may have this disconnect. Sometimes I use the example for somatic coaching and how automatic the body can be is the example of food poisoning. So most of us have experienced some time where we've had a food and then gotten very ill. And then in the future, when we go to think about that food, the body clenches up. You might feel sick just thinking about it. You feel like you lose your appetite. And that happens at that subconscious body level. And we're not actually eating the food, so we shouldn't have that physical response. But because it was so dramatic, our body remembers and doesn't want to go through that again. So even thinking about it and knowing like, oh, this is a different hamburger from someplace else, logically you can know that, but your body has a physiological response, a physical reaction. So when you can somatically process what's going on, you have that whole other layer of understanding and this suggestible place where we can work on rewiring new neural pathways or reprogramming. So I talked a little bit about what somatic coaching is, what it kind of looks like. Generally, it's obviously highly individualized for the person, and the journey is different for every person. That's why this is such a great technique to use one-on-one with someone. I've talked about why we use somatic coaching. And so now I'm going to talk about who it's for. What groups of people would benefit the most from somatic coaching besides everyone? Just kidding. So obviously, people with chronic pain or illness that is showing up in the body. Most chronic conditions are from the nervous system being in chronic survival states, living in survival mode. So this is good news because there are research-based techniques to rewire the brain, to teach the brain more neutrality around the sensations, which actually means the brain produces them less and less and less. So most people through somatic coaching are able to get completely out of chronic pain, meaning they have an average pain of 0 to 1 out of 10. We are still going to have pain in our lives, people, because pain is a feedback mechanism. But instead of fearing the pain all the time and not knowing how to handle it, which causes more production of pain, there are tools to use that when pain is produced, you know how to handle it and how to resolve it. So definitely people with chronic conditions, please look into somatic coaching if this approach is appealing to you. My favorite part about it is this is actually shown in research in neuroscience. This is not some woo magical thing, although it feels pretty magical sometimes, but it's actually based in what we now know about how chronic pain functions. Along those same lines, somatic coaching is good for people who want to return to activity or return to movement. So maybe they have some chronic pain, or maybe they don't really have chronic pain, but they're fearful of moving, or they've become restricted in movements. And it's often due to pain. So people associate a certain activity with producing pain, and then over time, this Pavlovian response of the brain to just produce pain on its own when the person does that movement. So all of that can be rewired through a technique called graded exposure. I have some demonstrations of it on my website under somatic coaching. So graded exposure is a very cool technique, and we can train yourself to move in a pain-free way and resume activities without the danger of being hurt, because you're not even actually starting with doing them. So you can retrain the brain slowly over time and get comfortable with movements that you thought you may never do again. Somatic coaching is helpful for people who want to process emotions. So maybe they feel like they have repressed emotions, maybe they haven't cried in a long time, or maybe it's just you're going through something right now and you keep talking about it, but it doesn't seem to make anything better. It could be that all the talking about it is just producing more of that emotion. And what can help, what really needs to happen, is to process that emotion, to feel it and process it in the ways I've been talking about with somatic coaching. And again, that's where we can train the brain to start focusing on other emotions as well when the trapped emotions have been processed. Somatic coaching is good for healing trauma. And this is what the principle of somatic experiencing, the technique by Peter Levine, is founded on, is that the experiences are felt and stored in the body. And so talking about traumatic events does not process them. It has to be done through the body, through somatics. And often it does involve practicing feeling safe in the body. Any dysregulation of the nervous system that's been going on for a long time, it starts to become unsafe to just relax, to be calm. It's like letting your guard down. And so there's actually a lot of work with building the capacity to feel good and learning what that feels like to feel safe without constantly having fears, worries, and shutdown from the nervous system. Somatic coaching is great for having aha moments to get to the subconscious and really figure out what's going on with a problem that you may have been coached on or talked to people about. But again, you can't make that connection. Like you understand with your brain, but the body is not responding. Or maybe you can't even figure out what is going on. Those are good cases for somatic coaching. It is fascinating the things that people come up with when we do somatic coaching. We just are open to whatever the subconscious brings up. And often it is so enlightening. And it's such a change when people experience it that just in one session, they're able to change behavior patterns that they've been working for a long time to change. As you can tell, I love somatic coaching. I think it really adds so much to the already amazing coaching experience. And if you have never tried it, I am offering a free 60-minute consult with me. If you book that now, I don't know how long I'll offer a 60-minute one for free, but I would like you to have the chance with me to experience some somatic coaching because, again, it is very experiential. Instead of listening to what somatic coaching is like, it will be a whole different experience to actually do it. If somatic coaching sounds like it could help you, I have an amazing program going on right now called Somatic Journey, where you have 3 sessions per month with me focusing on somatics. And every other month, we meet together as a small group to do a little virtual mini retreat. So definitely look in the show notes if this is calling to you. This group will last for 6 months. So you'll have so much time to practice, to integrate, to really dive deeply on any issues and resolve these old patterns, or at least know how to handle them differently when they do come up. I also have an amazing monthly group membership that if you are an Alignment Academy member, you're able to book one-on-one somatic coaching sessions with me at a discounted rate. So you can find all of the information about Somatic Journey and Alignment Academy in the show notes. And that's also where you'll find the link to book a free consult call with me. All right, thanks for listening. Have a great week.
Thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned a little bit about your brain today that helps you in your life like it helped me. Please be sure and subscribe and leave a review. And of course, be sure and share this podcast with someone you know that wants an unstoppable body and mind.